The creaky floors, the shadowy corners, the stories etched into the walls. So when he stumbled upon an ad for a charming Victorian home available for rent, he couldn't resist the allure. The price was unbelievably low for such a place, and the only catch was that he had to take possession at midnight. As Jack drove up the winding road that led to the house, an uneasy feeling settled in the pit of his stomach. The moon hung low in the sky, casting an eerie glow on the overgrown trees that lined the property. The air seemed to thicken with each passing mile, and an ominous stillness enveloped the area. Finally arriving at the address, Jack couldn't deny the grandeur of the Victorian mansion before him. Its time-worn facade loomed over him like a silent sentinel, watching his every move. He hesitated for a moment before gathering the courage to approach the front door. The landlord, an elderly man with a peculiar glint in his eye, handed Jack the keys and whispered a cryptic warning. "Remember, midnight is when the house truly comes alive." As Jack stepped inside, the atmosphere changed. The air seemed colder, and the shadows danced in strange patterns. Determined to shake off his unease, he explored the house, room by room. Each step echoed through the empty halls, and every creak of the floorboards felt like a distant whisper. As the clock ticked closer to midnight, Jack found himself in a dimly lit study, surrounded by shelves of ancient books. Something about the room made his skin prickle. Ignoring the sensation, he decided to rest there until the appointed hour, convincing himself that the unsettling feeling was merely a byproduct of an overactive imagination. The grandfather clock in the corner struck midnight, sending a shiver down Jack's spine. Just as he was about to dismiss his fears as irrational, he heard a faint sound, like a distant carriage approaching. It grew louder, closer, until it seemed to stop just outside the mansion. Drawn to the window, Jack peered into the darkness. To his surprise, a horse-drawn carriage stood in the driveway. The driver, obscured by a hooded cloak, gestured for Jack to join him. Against his better judgment, curiosity propelled Jack outside. The carriage interior was as dark as the night, the only source of light emanating from the dim lanterns that lined its ceiling. The driver, with a voice like the rustling leaves, spoke. "Welcome, Jack. Your journey has just begun." As the carriage set off, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that he had entered a realm between the living and the dead. The road stretched endlessly, surrounded by dense woods that whispered secrets of long-forgotten tales. The air inside the carriage grew thick with an otherworldly energy, and Jack's surroundings blurred into a surreal dreamscape. Time lost its meaning as the carriage carried him through landscapes that seemed to defy reality. Strange figures, half hidden in the shadows, watched him pass with hollow eyes. Jack's heart pounded, and a sense of foreboding gripped him, but he couldn't turn back. The carriage was bound for an unknown destination, and he was merely a passenger in a macabre journey. Finally, the carriage came to a halt in front of an imposing mansion, identical to the one Jack had rented. The driver, now revealed as a spectral figure with a skeletal face, extended a bony hand toward the mansion. "Your fate awaits within," it intoned. Reluctantly, Jack entered the mansion, only to find it eerily similar yet distinctly different. The air was heavy with the weight of forgotten memories, and ghostly whispers echoed through the halls. As he explored room after room, Jack discovered glimpses of lives once lived. Tragedies, celebrations, and the lingering echoes of joy and sorrow. The clock struck 3, and Jack felt a sudden compulsion to return to the carriage. The spectral driver awaited him, and the journey continued, the carriage gliding through the ethereal landscapes once more. Each stop revealed a new facet of the mysterious world he had entered, and Jack couldn't escape the feeling that he was reliving moments from the past. As dawn approached, the carriage returned to the original Victorian mansion. Jack stumbled out, disoriented and haunted by the surreal experience. The landlord appeared, his eyes filled with a knowing wisdom. "Midnight Rides reveal the history of the house and the souls trapped within," he explained cryptically. Jack was left with a choice: to embrace the history woven into the very fabric of the mansion, or to flee the spectral echoes that clung to its walls. The clock continued to tick, a constant reminder of the timeless mysteries that lurked in the shadows of the Midnight Ride. The night was shrouded in an eerie stillness as Larry ambled through the desolate streets of his small town. The air hung heavy with an unsettling quiet, broken only by the occasional creaking of branches and the distant hum of a solitary street lamp. Larry, a middle-aged man with a penchant for solitude, found comfort in the isolation of the midnight hours. Tonight, however, something felt different. As he passed the old abandoned mansion on Elm Street, Larry couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. The mansion, once grand and opulent, stood as a decaying relic of a bygone era. It had been the talk of the town for years, rumored to be haunted by the ghosts of its former inhabitants. Larry dismissed the tales as the product of overactive imaginations, but tonight, a chill ran down his spine. A sudden gust of wind whispered through the gnarled branches, carrying with it a mysterious invitation that fluttered at Larry's feet. He bent down to retrieve it, his curiosity piqued. The letter was sealed with an ornate wax emblem, and its contents revealed a cryptic message. Join us for a midnight ride, where secrets unfold and the past comes alive. The mansion awaits, and so does your destiny. Larry hesitated, torn between dismissing it as a prank and succumbing to the allure of the unknown. The clock struck midnight, echoing through the silent streets like a foreboding omen. Against his better judgment, Larry found himself drawn to the mansion, compelled by an inexplicable force that whispered promises of revelation. As he approached the imposing structure, the heavy wooden doors swung open with an eerie creak, inviting him into the dimly lit foyer. The air inside was thick with anticipation, and Larry's every step echoed in the vast emptiness. The mansion seemed to come alive, its faded wallpaper whispering forgotten tales as he ascended the grand staircase. The door to the drawing room swung open, revealing a gathering of shadowy figures seated around an antique table. Their faces were obscured by darkness, and Larry felt a chill settle in his bones. The leader, a silhouette with piercing eyes, gestured for him to join the macabre assembly. "Welcome, Larry," the leader intoned in a voice that seemed to echo from the depths of the past. "Tonight, you embark on a midnight ride into the recesses of your own history. Brace yourself for the revelations that await." Larry's unease deepened as he took a seat among the enigmatic assembly. The table was adorned with flickering candles that cast dancing shadows on the faces of those seated around it. The leader, known only as the Keeper, began recounting tales of the town's forgotten secrets, each revelation more chilling than the last. The stories unfolded like a macabre tapestry, woven with threads of betrayal, tragedy, and the sins of the past. Larry, a reluctant participant in this spectral gathering, felt his own history unraveling before him. The faces of his ancestors emerged from the shadows, their ghostly visages etched with sorrow and resentment. As the Keeper delved deeper into the town's dark history, Larry's connection to the tales became undeniable. Long-buried family secrets clawed their way to the surface, leaving him haunted by the sins of his forebears. The Midnight Ride had become a journey through the twisted corridors of his own lineage, and there was no turning back. The room pulsated with an otherworldly energy as the revelations reached a crescendo. Larry's heart raced, and beads of sweat formed on his brow. The assembly, now a spectral jury, cast judgment on the deeds of generations past. The weight of guilt and remorse bore down on him like an insurmountable burden. Just as the darkness threatened to consume him, the room fell silent. The ghostly figures dissolved into the shadows, leaving Larry alone in the dimly lit drawing room. The mansion, once alive with secrets, now echoed with the hollow emptiness of its forsaken halls. With the first light of dawn, Larry stumbled out of the mansion, haunted by the spectral revelations of the night. The town, still cloaked in an early morning mist, seemed oblivious to the horrors that had unfolded within the decaying walls. Larry, burdened by the weight of his newfound knowledge, walked away with a haunted gaze, forever changed by the midnight ride that had unraveled the tapestry of his existence. The small town of Ravenswood was known for its picturesque charm during the day, but as the sun set and shadows crept through its narrow streets, a sense of unease settled over the quaint community. Legend had it that every year, on the night of the full moon, a mysterious invitation would find its way to one unsuspecting resident. This invitation was said to summon the chosen individual to a midnight ride that held secrets darker than the night itself. Jonathan Reed, a reserved librarian with a penchant for historical mysteries, found himself at the heart of this year's chilling tale. One evening, as he shelved books in the dimly lit library, an ancient-looking envelope caught his eye. It was sealed with crimson wax and bore no return address. The sender's name was written in elegant script, but Jonathan could not decipher the faded letters. Curiosity overcoming caution, he opened the envelope to reveal an intricately detailed map and a cryptic message. At the stroke of midnight, follow the path to the edge of town. A journey awaits that will unveil the secrets buried in the shadows of Ravenswood. As the clock struck 12, Jonathan found himself drawn to the map's winding trails, leading him through the deserted streets. The town slept soundly, unaware of the eerie events unfolding. Moonlight filtered through gnarled branches, casting ghostly shadows that seemed to dance along with his every step. Upon reaching the outskirts, a horse-drawn carriage materialized from the mist, its driver concealed in a hooded cloak. The invitation had come to life. Hesitation gripped Jonathan, but an unseen force urged him forward. He entered the carriage, and with a haunting creak, it began its silent journey into the unknown. The carriage traversed unfamiliar terrain, the landscape morphing into a haunting dreamscape. As Ravenswood faded into the distance, Jonathan felt a chilling wind that whispered ancient secrets in his ears. The driver remained silent, his face obscured in the shadows. The carriage arrived at a dilapidated mansion, standing alone in a desolate clearing. Ivy crawled up its weathered facade, and shattered windows gazed like vacant eyes. Jonathan, guided by an unseen force, entered the mansion, the creaking door echoing through the empty halls. The interior was frozen in time, adorned with dusty portraits and furniture draped in ghostly sheets. As Jonathan explored the eerie corridors, he discovered a hidden library filled with dusty tomes. These volumes chronicled forbidden knowledge, revealing the town's dark history and the truth behind the annual Midnight Ride. Ravenswood was founded by a secret society that delved into the occult, using dark rituals to gain prosperity. However, these sinister practices unleashed malevolent forces that cursed the town. The annual Midnight Ride served as a sacrificial offering, appeasing the ancient entities and ensuring the town's survival. As the clock struck 3, the mansion trembled with an otherworldly resonance. Shadows twisted and contorted, manifesting into grotesque figures. The driver, revealed as a spectral being, spoke with a voice that echoed through the ages, revealing the ritual's true purpose: to transfer the curse to a new host. Jonathan, now entangled in the town's dark legacy, faced a choice: accept the burden of the curse to save Ravenswood or attempt to break the cycle, risking the town's destruction. The mansion's walls seemed to close in as the weight of centuries bore down on him. The once silent shadows now whispered an urgent plea, leaving Jonathan with an impossible decision. Torn between self-preservation and the fate of Ravenswood, Jonathan stood in the ancient library, grappling with the weight of the revelation. The ghostly figures converged, their spectral forms urging him to make a choice. The cursed whispers echoed through the halls, and the air grew thick with an otherworldly tension. As the clock's relentless ticking marked the passing seconds, Jonathan felt the weight of responsibility settle upon his shoulders. He couldn't allow the cycle of sacrifice to persist, condemning future generations to this malevolent pact. Determination surged within him, and he resolved to break free from the town's dark embrace. With newfound resolve, Jonathan delved into the forbidden tomes, seeking a ritual that could sever the ties binding Ravenswood to its cursed destiny. The ancient texts spoke of a ritual of redemption, a perilous path that required courage and sacrifice. As the midnight hour neared its peak, he gathered the necessary components and prepared to confront the malevolent forces that lurked in the shadows. The mansion groaned and trembled, resisting the intrusion of an outsider challenging its malevolent purpose. Ghostly figures materialized, their ethereal forms writhing in protest. Yet, undeterred, Jonathan pressed on, tracing ancient symbols on the mansion's floor, reciting incantations that echoed with ancient power. The spectral driver, now a witness to Jonathan's audacious defiance, spoke words of warning and despair. The mansion's walls seemed to pulse with malevolence, as if the very essence of Ravenswood fought against the breaking of its curse. In the final moments of the ritual, Jonathan felt an intense surge of energy. Shadows recoiled, and the mansion quivered with an otherworldly roar. The curse, centuries in the making, began to unravel, dissipating like a dissipating fog. The ghostly figures wailed as they were banished, their existence bound to the annals of history. As the first light of dawn broke on the horizon, Ravenswood emerged from the shadows, free from the grip of its dark past. The dilapidated mansion crumbled into ruins, and the spectral carriage dissolved into mist, leaving only the echo of a distant howl. Jonathan, exhausted but triumphant, emerged from the ruins, carrying the burden of the town's secrets within him. The townsfolk awoke, unaware of the supernatural struggle that had unfolded in the depths of the night. Ravenswood, now freed from its curse, basked in the sunlight as if awakening from a long, haunting nightmare. In the days that followed, Jonathan became a quiet hero, known only to a few who felt the lingering traces of the supernatural events. The once cursed town flourished, and its residents lived without the specter of the Midnigh Ride hanging over them. Yet, as Jonathan returned to his role as the town's librarian, he couldn't shake the haunting memories of that fateful night. The shadows still whispered in the corners, a reminder of the sacrifices made to break free from the shackles of darkness.